Hello everybody, it's the Historical Gamer once again, and today we're returning to Strategic Command, World War II, World at War. It is July 28th of 1944, and things are getting a little bit interesting. In the Western Theater in Western Europe, the Americans have landed at Normandy, the Canadians as well, and they've broken out. Last turn they broke out near Nantes on the base of the Brittany Peninsula. And they kind of drove inland a bit. We have sealed the breakthrough, at least temporarily, by racing two armored units from the Russian front in toward Tours in France, so the Allies haven't gotten to Paris yet, and we'll see if this line is strong enough to hold. It involves two army units, two corps units, and two armored units, although a lot of their morale is not terribly good. This unit here in Tours, for example, is only at 45 morale and 43 readiness, due to the fact that it was just railed in. The the infantry unit here on the base near the coast is likewise only at 12 morale. So there's some challenges there because we had to race troops in. Meanwhile, the British landings in eastern Normandy or near Le Havre have actually been thrown back into the sea. Two British units have, or at least one British unit has, no, two were destroyed here. An additional British landing to the east of Dunkirk has been pushed back temporarily, and they currently have no base of supply. Further British landings in Holland have retaken Amsterdam and The Hague, and they have units here that are isolated at the moment, but in theory could break out and advance further into Germany and pose a serious problem if the AI gets aggressive there. We can see that there are additional American units, the 6th American Army, I assume, and the 9th American Army, I assume, here, both at sea, one of which has been damaged slightly by our U-boats, and we'll see where they try and come ashore. In addition to that, actually, and that kind of sparks some thought here. I don't have money to transport them, so never mind. I was going to bring one of those garrisons in from Norway. Meanwhile, on the Russian front, we've just taken the city of Gorky. We've taken the city of Sevastopol, and then in the east, we also took the Russian city of Vladivostok. So our hope is the loss of these three cities may drive the Russians to surrender, as it will be 3 national morale centers that the Russians lose. Additionally, there are under 50 units remaining in the entire Russian army. They have 47 army units and 5 air units. They do still have quite a strong navy at 8 units in the navy. But that's the situation there. If we look at the Russians' national morale situation, though, it's not quite as low as we'd like. I don't think they've gotten the penalty yet for the loss of those 3 cities. That should come after this turn. So currently it's at 69 or 68, or actually it says 58, sorry. And that'll fall a bit with the loss of those 3 cities, so we'll see how that goes. Meanwhile, in the Pacific, the Japanese obviously have invaded the Soviet Union, but in addition to that, they're driving on the final Chinese capital at Umrichi, and our hope is we can take that in the next couple of turns and knock China out of the war. On the front in Burma, the capital of Burma at Rangoon has fallen, Mandalay has fallen, the British just lost a unit destroyed at Impal on the Indian border, and several British units are here in sort of this tiny little pocket, a little bit of eastern China, and also this pocket in here near Burma, where the Japanese are advancing on. Although the British do have some pretty good units here. They got a level 3 tank unit, which is proving a little bit challenging to deal with in the supply-constrained mountainous southwestern corner of China. In addition to that, the Americans have counterattacked. They've landed on the island of Java. They have a headquarters unit at Surabaya, and they have an army unit at Semerdang. Fortunately, they don't have a port for this army unit, but if they move just a little bit east, then they'll be back in supply and probably a threat. Meanwhile, the American Navy has shown up. We know there's at least 2 carriers in the area. One of them we nearly sank last turn, and we also know there's 2 battleships and 2 destroyers. Our air unit took quite a beating, and I'm kind of worried whether we'll lose another carrier. We've lost 2 carriers to this point. The Soryu was lost the other turn, I believe it was. But we've lost 2 carriers so far in the war. We have 4 more out here, 3 fleet, 1 light carrier. And then we have 1 more fleet carrier back in Japan that's repairing from damage. But the Americans are seemingly trying to overwhelm us in the Pacific. While we do have the local supremacy in terms of total forces, their units at level 2 are strong and in some cases better than our own. Their air units are level 3, which in some cases is stronger than our own. So it's a little bit of a challenging situation. We weren't really able to do much damage to them last turn because it was raining. So we couldn't bomb any of these units. And all we could do is sort of engage them with with our surface vessels, with our battleships. And our battleships, frankly, we tried to engage the carrier to get an advantage there, and it just didn't do a lot of damage. I mean, it managed to cripple it. It probably will pull out, I imagine, after this turn, but it didn't sink anything. So they still have sufficient forces in here if they want to start doing amphibious landings, which is a little bit of a challenge. We also have 2 of our battleships, which are back at Singapore and North Borneo, trying to repair from damages from earlier naval battles where we had absolutely obliterated the American fleet. Meanwhile, in the Middle East, the Syrians are still holding strong at Jerusalem. The Germans have pulled 1 armored unit that was in Iran back to the Western Front. There's 1 that remains. And the Italians still are hanging on to a tiny little toehold in Libya. And on the Italian front, the Americans are bottled up here in southern Italy, but it wouldn't take much for the Americans to get a little bit frisky and do an Anzio and end the war in Italy as well. I just don't have enough units to cram in here. We've got a whole bunch of garrison units over here that are maintaining sort of discipline with the partisans, but we really don't have the forces to garrison Italy, so we just have to hope that the AI continues to remain weak and not landing in northern Italy. The one thing that I will tell you guys is we have seen that the AI is hindered by fog of war, you guys, and one thing that I know a lot of you are saying is like, why isn't the AI landing in northern Italy? Why aren't they being smart and just attacking Rome? Well, it's easy to say that. It's easy to say, why aren't they being smart? Why aren't they doing this? But it's worth pointing out that the way the game works is clearly the AI doesn't know everything due to fog of war, and unless they're running recon flights up here, which I don't believe they are, they won't really know what's here. So, unless they sail ships by, they won't know exactly what's here. So it would be a little bit more of a risk if you had no idea what the Germans had in store in Italy, especially when you see they keep bringing in more and more reinforcements into western France. At least that's my theory. Anyway, I think that's going to do it for our sort of recap. I know you guys kind of prefer if I didn't do those as often. We still can't take Brazil, by the way. We just don't have enough forces there. All right, so let's go ahead and see what the AI is going to do on their turn. Soviet morale falls with the loss of Vladivostok. Soviet morale falls with the loss of Sevastopol, sorry, guys. And their morale falls with the loss of Gorky. So 3 key cities. Vladivostok gives Japan 25 MPPs that they plunder. A brigade of Danish volunteers crosses over from Sweden to liberate Copenhagen. What the fuck? So apparently the USSR has not surrendered, and Copenhagen is now an allied city, and we have nothing there. Lovely. Just lovely. Now I want to go to war with Sweden. I mean, we're not at war with Sweden. God fucking damn it. We're trying to close in on Stalingrad. Also, the Soviet Union clearly did not surrender yet, so that's just great. So, all of our wildest dreams are coming true. Meanwhile, Allied destroyers are going after our 1 submarine, which came down from Norway. They're trying to drive them off the invasion routes. An American destroyer raced through our carrier cordon, and multiple American destroyers here are attacking our carriers. American carriers just sank a battleship there, so that's great. Meanwhile, more air combat is going on here in northern France. It looks like they're going after this army here on the northern border with their carrier strikes. Here's the issue is we actually have a pretty strong air force in western France. We've got 3 air units, all level 3s. But the Americans have so many air units in Europe, they also have these carriers which have multiple strikes available to them, that it's a little bit of a challenge. You can see their battleships are going after our carriers. Oh, fuck. And our battleships. So, yeah, this is a rough turn for the Japanese Navy. We've lost 1 battleship. We've lost another carrier crippled. We're going to have to try and get out of fucking Dodge. And hopefully the American units don't retreat now. At least maybe they'll stay in place, and we'll be able to take some shots at them on our way out. I don't know. You can see strategic bombing of various industrial assets throughout France and Germany. Bombing of Dortmund there. Bombing of a rail yard over here. I don't know if that actually hinders supply. Dortmund bombed again. You know, strategic bombers in northern Africa are hitting our land forces. more tactical bombers. These guys were hindered at least by our interceptors, so that should make them a little bit less effective. That bombing raid didn't do anything except maybe hurt the morale, which matters in of itself. They're really focusing on these 2 ground units in the northernmost portion of France. You got to wonder if that's where they're going to try and create an additional breakout there, since our armor is in the south. That would be a logical place to go, especially because one of those units is a core unit. We actually see some air activity in North Africa as well. Artillery focusing on that ground unit. They have an armored unit immediately adjacent to it, so they may attack there. We'll see. Meanwhile, we can see a Soviet army is advancing on Kubachev, which was their old capital. So the Soviets are actually advancing very strongly there. They drove back and nearly destroyed that core unit near Kubachev. American armor attacks here. Doesn't actually break through and destroy that infantry unit there. A follow-on infantry unit pushes it back, and then an armored unit attempting to exploit the break attacks at Caen. So the Allies are gaining some ground in Western Europe. We're going to have to see if we can take Stalingrad, because apparently the 2 cities we did take didn't have a big enough national morale impact. Meanwhile, a lot of ground units cramming in here. It looks like they're moving south toward Bordeaux, which apparently is an alternate French capital, I guess. Attempting to break out at Lille. I always call it Lily, but as I understand it, it might be pronounced Lille. The British, of course, are able to squeeze through this tiny gap here, move around us, and take Bremen, and now they're into Germany. With a port, too, nonetheless. Soviet counterattacks at Pskov. I'm really surprised at how aggressive the AI is with the Russians where they're at. Like, with the Russians having almost no units left, they're basically attacking across the board. Shit. Well, that armored unit just nearly destroyed that infantry corps. I guess Bordeaux's probably lost anyway, so less of a concern there. Some British troops are coming ashore in the beachhead. It was a rough turn. We might be able to counterattack with that armor, though. Our armor at Tours fared okay, so they should be recovering from the national morale penalty of moving via rail. Meanwhile, the British... Oh, fucking A. So Denmark is pretty much all liberated now because of the drive into Bremen and then that volunteer corps that showed up at Copenhagen. That's going to be a problem because that could be a whole new front that they could pour masses of troops into. So we'll see. Be great if they leave this landing craft here in range of our shore guns. Same up here. I've still got a lot of troops coming ashore, but if I can keep inflicting casualties on them before they can get ashore... This is such a clusterfuck right now. Okay. The Soviet headquarters unit is advancing and taking ground. What? Huh? All right, let's hope for good weather in the South China or in the Java Sea, so we can actually do something with these troops or with these ships that we have there. The Allies liberate Denmark. Partisan activity in Manchuria. I don't really care about the supply being hindered in the Mediterranean because of Malta. We don't even have troops there, really. Oh, we lost the Yamato. That's nice. British carrier. American warships in the East Coast. Man, we're getting really good intelligence about enemy naval activity. We also have a brand new carrier, level 5. It's coming in not completely finished. The Amagi for Japan. Alright, so actually we do have good weather down here. So I think the first thing I want to do is with my subs, see if we can go after this American carrier a bit. There's a full-strength American carrier there. Then with these guys, I'm going to go after the battleships with my carriers. So there's going to be interceptors, so we're going to lose some air units, but we're going to inflict casualties on the American air units too. That's unfortunate. I thought we'd sink it. All right, more interceptors, so more damage to our air wing. But that battleship is sunk, so that's a good result. This battleship needs to die too. The question is, like, how best... So this carrier, well, it can't really move far, I guess, but it's still hull strength level 9. Can any of these guys get into range? Okay, so this battleship can get to Tigilap and engage this destroyer. It's the only thing it can hit, so that's why I'm moving that. This guy can't get into range yet. So that destroyer is damaged. Again, none of my like ships are super strong. It's just a question of figuring out like what the right focus is. Well, the carrier can't hit these guys, so the light carrier is going to go after this battleship here. And can't get back to any ports. This guy's at a level 3 supply. His supply went up. Meanwhile, our supply is level 3 because we have no headquarters there. So we're going to fall back to Batavia. Alright, so he already bombed. Let's pull this carrier back as far as it can go. He also already bombed, so let's pull him back. He's going to shield the other fleet carrier a little bit. This guy's air wing's a little bit weaker, so I think, and I really want to go after that carrier. Let's do this. Alright, and actually the battleship can fall back to a port. So the carrier's weakened. And sunk! Alright. He's sunk. These guys are going to fall back to defensive ports, so that should make them a little bit harder to hit. The other fleet carrier we have here is going to go after this battleship. Sink it. And then, can it fall back to any ports? No, sort of. It could go to Mascar if we want. But I think I'd rather keep it here. Its hull strength is still full. So it's going to go after this destroyer, sink that, and fall back here. This carrier is the one we need to get to safety. It's a level 6 hull strength. So can these battleships finish off this destroyer by themselves? Almost. So we'll just bomb it, and then we'll see if we can get back to Batavia. Not quite. Alright, well, in any event, it'll fall back here. So this carrier is the furthest back to the rear. Alright, so we sank an American carrier, we sank 2 battleships and 2 destroyers. So that's 5 warships sunk. The American Navy did strengthen a bit. They must have completed some new ships, but they're probably not anywhere near being close enough to support. So their fleet strength is down to 18. That should be, like, you'd think from a morale perspective, the American losing all these carriers would hurt. I mean, the morale is dropping. If I look at the MPPs, the losses there were pretty high, more than they get in a turn, so that's good at least. So the American Navy in the Western Pacific should be dealt another pretty big blow, the loss of 2 battleships, 2 destroyers, and an aircraft carrier. This aircraft carrier here was down to 2 hull strength. I don't think the facilities at Dili will allow it to get back to full strength in a single turn of repair, so that's good. This battleship, can we just repair it here? No, we can't, so we'll have to move it to Singapore, which is closer to being in range anyway. Meanwhile, in the Chinese theater, wow, they lose a lot of fucking men doing that. Or a lot of bombers doing that. Let's run a fighter sweep against Umrichi. It'll bring interceptors up, which we can presumably hurt a bit. So that was actually quite a bit of damage against our fighters. Our bombers will get savaged if we do that. Even with escorts. That's messed up. I just kind of want to bomb these guys. Alright, so can these guys reach? They can. This will be supply points hurt, I think. But at least it'll use up their interceptors. China loses 3 MPP. So I think we're doing more strategic bombing rather than actually hurting them. That should make these guys bombable. Both these guys actually should be bombable. The Chinese capital has fallen! I don't know if that'll end the war right away, but we did take their capital. So I just blitzed through, destroyed one air unit, badly damaged another, and then took the capital of Umrichi because there were no army units there. So that's good. It'll be interesting to see what the actual result is. I'm still moving troops that way because I don't really know if they'll just instantly capitulate or not. Obviously, Russia hasn't. China, on the other hand, is much weaker, though, right now. I'm actually going to move these bombers south. I really need tactical air to help against the British armor over here, which just ravaged one of our armies. That being said, I'm just going to attack these guys. There we go. Driving them back. It seems like any allied units that move into Impal are just kind of screwed. So I'm just going to kind of keep hitting them there. And we'll see how things develop on the Chinese front this turn. I'm curious if I'm leaving guys mostly where they are because I don't know if China falls, like, do all of their partisans go away as well? I don't really know how that works. I really would like to go for Irkutsk, but that's going to be hard to get to right now. You can't quite get to Harbin, so we'll have to move those guys around. Apparently I can't take out that Soviet garrison unit in this city. The more Soviet units I destroy, by the way, obviously I think the more likely they are to surrender. But it doesn't look like the Japanese are going to be able to help much on that score this turn. So we'll have to see how this all plays out, but I think China's a goner. The American Navy just got ravaged. Get wrecked! So, yeah, I guess we need to focus on the eastern... well, let's look at the western theater first, because that may influence our troop deployments. So these guys' morale is low, but we're reinforcing them anyway, because I don't want to give ground if I don't have to. Same for these guys. I need to reinforce this mechanized troop here and give it some time to recover. These guys recovered a lot of their morale. I'd like to upgrade this armored unit to level 4 tanks, but it doesn't look like that's an option. Because maybe they're adjacent to the American armor? Is that the reason why? Let's blow up these American troops on ships, because that's a good idea. Shattered! British unit destroyed! Alright, so we just destroyed the British unit here near Lille. We also damaged a British unit on ship transports and an American unit on transports. Can we get in there? No, we can't. More American destroyers everywhere we look. Alright, meanwhile, the British troops did advance into Bremen. We're going to cut them off. We're going to have to bring in additional reinforcements from the Eastern Front, though, probably. I don't want to just let them out of this area. So we'll continue to do damage to the British paratroopers near Amsterdam. Alright. Meanwhile, we retook Gruningen here in the north. We'll see if they land more troops there, but I need to rail some troops into Hamburg, probably. Can we reinforce these guys to max? Close, so we'll do that. Question is, what do I want to do? I mean, honestly, I can get a 1-3 here. I'm definitely going to attack. Oh, God, they got nothing like what the forecast was. This is a level 3 American tank. That's interesting. That we get a 1-3 against them. It could be our experience, I suppose. I think we swap these guys, finish that American tank off. Do we want to move this unit in? Le Havre, you're going to reinforce because you just repelled an American landing, I think. We're going to upgrade these fighters rather than reinforce them to level 4 fighters. We can reinforce next turn. The Bordeaux troops we're going to strengthen. All right, just doing a little recon around the Tyrrhenian Sea, and no signs of enemy amphibious troops. Those could be our famous last words. Yikes, they actually did quite a bit of damage there. That was not a good result for those troops on the peninsula. Yeah, I think we won't attack with this armored unit. The challenge is this is an American anti-tank unit, apparently, which are very good against other tanks. Part of me says, do we want to move this unit in? If we move this unit in here, it will probably die, but my assumption is it will actually take a fair bit of the strength out of the American attack. Maybe we can weaken their anti-tank. So they're going to focus on destroying this core, which may mean they won't focus as hard on actually breaking out, and it may buy us a turn or so. So it's kind of a sacrificial scenario. You know, the other question is, now that this army's freed up by destroying this British unit, I mean, they may land more troops here, but if they don't, do we want to reposition it, but also open up part of our coast to a landing? Okay. The good thing here is actually I don't think my Stukas can bomb near Stalingrad yet, anyway. So we just destroyed that unit that was on the verge of retaking their capital. We can reinforce the headquarters unit there. Like, these guys, I guess they can help over there, but I'd rather relieve the pressure on the capital if we can. Can these guys drive that far south? No. Perm, reinforce them, get them up to full strength. Move this armored unit down here. Oh, they have defensive artillery. What a shock. Goddamn Soviets. In any event, we weaken these two Russian armies here in the south. So that's a good result. And we're going to Stuka these guys here. We're going to fly our aircraft south so they'll be able to assist in the reduction of the Stalingrad pocket. Move our headquarters units in. Mechanized troops should finish this guy off. Move into the rear of this guy. There we go. Swing way south. We're blitzkrieging them. Oh, shit. Well, it's a good thing I did that. I don't think they'll be able to take this mechanized unit in one go. They might be able to. We'll have to find out. I don't want to advance there, do I? Also, this guy's threatening to cut off our... I forgot about him completely. Yeah, damn it. I need to move someone to Kazan. And these Russian partisans don't exactly help you in that matter. Why can't I operate those guys? Alright, he's trying to... it looks like... I mean, that would cut off the rail line if he does advance there, but it's a headquarter unit in the middle of nowhere. Like, what is he doing? That's insane. He's trying to get himself killed, probably. Alright. Let's see. All these Soviet units are in terrible supply situations, so we might actually be able to destroy a couple of them. That army finished him off. Very nice. Alright, we're going to move this headquarter unit forward to support the advance, and then we're going to pull this guy back to do the partisan duties. Alright, so we destroyed multiple Soviet units there. They're down to 43 units. They're rapidly being, you know, worn down. Part of me wants to advance. Can I? Still has one action point. What's the supply situation for? Nice. We can advance, attack, and then pull back. Very good. All right. So troops at Pskov are going to reinforce. What else? Their supply situation isn't very good either. Alright, this heavy tank cannot operate, apparently. Why can't you operate? Get them back to Danzig, maybe? That's the challenge here, is we've got these enemy troops that are kind of breaking out. Well, actually, we don't know if they're really breaking... Well, these guys are going to be in good... Well, I don't know. I don't know. We really need something in Hamburg, though, to close that gap. And I pretty much just used all my units up. I thought this unit was going to be able to move. Alright. We'll put him as a sacrificial lamb in Hamburg. We don't have any other new units, do we? Well, we can't operate him either? Really? Just drive him into the middle of the desert there, push back the Russian menace in Persia? Because why the hell not? Oh, wait a minute. We've got all these troops around Sevastopol. And Sevastopol apparently doesn't require a garrison. So, but nobody can operate over here. Why can nobody... Oh, because I have no money? Is that it? They used up all my money? Well, we can at least operate these guys, right? Well, let's see. So these Italian troops are going to move here. This artillery, I think, is going to move. Would the artillery be useful on the... Western Front? Hope so. Be great to have some air power in the Western Front as well, but the problem is with as many air units as the Allies have, I doubt we'd ever even break through to scratch them. So we're actually going to move these guys over here. So we'll kind of leave these guys on the defensive as the armor comes back on Stalingrad's rear. If we destroy these 6 units, the Soviets would have to surrender, right? They'd be below 40. And they'd have no capitals, no national morale centers, nothing. Come on, Soviet Union, just give up already. I'm never going to take Brazil out of this war. It's going to be the longest siege in the history of man. All right. So these tanks are racing west as quickly as they can drive. Bremen is at least temporarily cut off. I mean, who knows? Maybe they're going to try and, like, sprint to Berlin, but I don't think they can do that. I don't like that Berlin is unoccupied, though. I don't have any money to operate anybody. I could probably operate another one of these guys, as long as I don't land in northern, just to put something on Berlin so it's not open. Diplomacy-wise, are we investing anything diplomatically speaking? We must be doing something. Is it on Turkey? Is that where we're spending our money? Yeah. So they're 10% toward the ally right now. But we do have a 35% chance of improving that. We could work on Vichy France, too. Japan actually has a lot of money left still. So we're going to... First, we're going to get this carrier's strength up to 10. Can I upgrade anything? No. We just placed a new carrier. We can upgrade this cruiser, which apparently I didn't even realize I had. So we'll get up to level... to its max right there. We'll have to see if China surrenders. I'm hoping they surrender. If they do, then I'm going to have to figure out how to bring more strength against the... I can bring the air down. I can go after Kunming. Well, if they surrender, Kunming shouldn't provide them any supply. I really hope all these garrison, like all these partisan units kind of go away if China surrenders. Meanwhile, let's do an amphibious long-range transport. And we're going to ship those guys to Java real quick to counter the Americans. And then we'll have to invade India, I guess. But anyway. All right, guys, I think that's about going to do it for this turn. So we'll go ahead and save here. Which was our last one? It was THG2, right? Yeah, okay. So we're going to go ahead and save here, and we'll see what happens next time. I hope you guys are enjoying this series, as always. And until next time, we'll see if the Soviet Union continues to fight with their heavy losses of manpower, or if we really have to go for their last national morale center. What is actually their morale? Let's take a look at that. National morale fell down to 49, so they're below 50% with the loss of those 3 cities. And they did lose a little bit more morale with the loss of more units. So suppose, you know, when you lose units, you do lose a tiny bit of morale. So it's possible they might be convinced to surrender with all of these casualties they've suffered. We got to hope so, because we need all these troops to face the Americans and the British and all of our enemies. There's so many enemies. Until next time, guys, though, this is the Historical Gamer saying thank you for watching, and I'm out.